So now who
stillness
won?
was abruptly broken by Sophie Cunningham,
And the
Lexy
winner
Hull then delivered
is Caitlin
an
Clark.
Clearly, we
emotional
want her
statement
out there.
that
I think
nobody
she draws
had
so much attention,
anticipated.
and she's a
Not
phenomenal
only is
player.
there news on
But at
Caitlin
the
Clark
same time, I
dramatic,
think it's a great
but
time
it
for
is
her to
also
learn.
extremely personal, and it has kept league fans waiting impatiently. In the WNBA, these three ladies have developed one of the closest relationships. However, what they just disclosed alters everything. How did we move from victory to heartache in only a few short days? As we reveal the dramatic surprise that just astounded the Indiana Fever, please take a seat. Fans are shocked by Caitlin Clark's all-star departure. July 17th, 2025 was meant to be a memorable day for all the right reasons. As Indianapolis prepared to host the WNBA All-Star Weekend, it was a city full of pride. Every hotel was reserved, every ticket was sold out in a matter of minutes, and Caitlin Clark was featured on every banner in the city. At age 23, the homegrown sensation had already swept the league. The purpose of the fans' arrival was to see a significant event in basketball history, not just a game. Long before entering the WNBA, Clark was already well known. College fans were in awe of her record-breaking run at Iowa. However, what many had long believed was verified by her entrance into the pros. She was unique, on the court, fearless, nimble with the ball, and motivating in every move. She had swiftly emerged as the spokesperson for Indiana Fever. The foundation was set during her freshman season. She wasn't merely catching up to league veterans by her second year, though. They were being passed by her. When she won WNBA Player of the Year at the ESPY in early July, that became indisputable. Standing atop titans like A.A. Wilson and Breanna Stewart, Clark's statement sent shockwaves around the league. It was more than just an honor for someone who is still very young. It was a declaration. The time has come for a young star to shine. All eyes were on Indianapolis as All-Star Weekend approached. The favorite in the three-point competition was Clark. She was captain for the All-Star game. The story had essentially been written by itself. However, the story took a sudden and unexpected turn just as the scene was being set. Days after receiving one of the greatest accolades in sports, Caitlin Clark declared she would not be attending All-Star Weekend at all. No game, no contest, and no on-court appearance. Like a thunderclap, the announcement was made. How could a triumphant moment turn to stillness so abruptly? Reporters, teammates, and fans were all left with the same query. How did things change so quickly? Is there a more severe situation going on behind the scenes? See what actually caused this abrupt and startling decision by continuing to watch. The secret suffering that led to Caitlin Clark's abrupt departure. It took place in silence during a difficult game versus the Connecticut Sun. Caitlin Clark started to move less forcefully, clutching her side while a wheeze flashed across her face. It initially appeared to be minor, perhaps just exhaustion. But when she hobbled towards the bench, clearly hurting, the chatter soon turned to worry. She had been carefully treating a groin injury for weeks, but it soon became apparent that she had worsened it. Stephanie White, her coach, promised the public that she would be rigorously examined, but nobody anticipated the outcome would be so disastrous. Clark had been in the national spotlight just days before after winning the 2025 WNBA Player of the Year award. Celebrated as one of the youngest to ever hold such a title in terms of ESP. She was now withdrawing from everything. No three-point shootout, no All-Star game, and no time spent in front of her Indianapolis home fans beneath the arena lights. The basketball community was rocked by her declaration on July 17th. It couldn't have come at a worse time. Clark made a succinct yet sincere comment. She expressed her disappointment and the importance of her health to her fans with just a few lines and heart emojis. She expressed her intention to continue attending the celebrations despite being sidelined, cheering from the sidelines with the same ferocity she takes to the court. It was a tough but responsible choice that demonstrated her dedication to the long term, not only to her own career but also to her colleagues. Someone had to step up after Clark withdrew from the competition, and the WNBA didn't have to search far. Clark's sick teammate Lexy Hull was called up to replace her. Hull had been quietly putting on one of her best seasons, especially from outside the arc, while being less prominent in the headlines. With one of the league's best three-point shooting percentages, Her numbers were self-evident, and coaches knew she could step up when needed. Although Hull was receiving more attention, she was also dealing with a personal heartbreak. She lost her cherished dog, Maggie, who had been with her for 14 years, just days prior to the announcement. It was more than a pet. Family was involved. Hull posted Maggie in black and white pictures along with a brief, heartfelt note on social media to spread the news. "Without you, the sweetest Mag's house won't be the same," she stated. The reaction was swift and tremendous. Two responses stood out among the thousands of condolences sent by admirers. One was from colleague Sophie Cunningham, who wrote, "No, Lex, I'm sorry." The other was from Caitlin Clark, who only wrote, "Love you." In a society where pressure is constant and competition is fierce, a larger tale of genuine friendship and emotional fortitude was unveiled by these insignificant incidents. This team was more than just a basketball one. A sisterhood existed. More significantly, they attended each other's low points as well as their high points. Hull didn't have to bear her sorrow by herself. And every press conference, every post, and every practice reflected that support. These were
Earlier
lifelines,
in the season, when
not
Caitlin
merely
Clark took a
teammates.
rough hit during a
Fans
game,
started to see
it wasn't a
something
coach
greater
or
than
referee
numbers
who
or
stepped in
awards
first.
when Lexy Hull got ready to enter the game with a heavy heart, and Clark got ready to cheer from the sidelines rather than take the lead on the court. They noticed heart. They observed loyalty. They observed what occurs during game pauses. However, the players' bond does not. Was Sophie Cunningham the quiet power that kept everything together when no one else could in the face of harm, grief, and abrupt change? Watch this space to discover out. The enduring connection between Hull, Cunningham, and Clark. Sophie was renowned for more than simply her defensive tenacity and her ability to irritate opponents, though she was exceptionally skilled at both. Her intense loyalty was what really made her stand out. It wasn't a coach or a referee that intervened first when Caitlin Clark was hit hard during a game earlier in the season. Sophie was the one. Without hesitation, she sprang to Clark's defense and took the matter head-on. The league fined her for that incident, but fans who saw something more profound praised her. Someone who safeguarded with heart in addition to playing with enthusiasm. Cunningham was viewed as more than just a teammate after that. She was seen as a leader who filled the void when it was necessary. She didn't only show up for Caitlin either. She also often inquired about Lexy Hull, particularly throughout the tearful days after Maggie's death. Cunningham subtly assumed the position of big sister, protecting the younger players and ensuring that nobody ever felt isolated. Sophie never wavered, whether it was during practice, off-field, or in supportive private messages. That intimacy wasn't overlooked. The group was dubbed Tres Leches by fans who recognized their unique synergy. It was lighthearted and based on the well-liked dessert. However, the connotation was more profound. It represented strength, sweetness, and the harmonious mingling of three different flavors: Hull, Cunningham, and Clark. One silent warrior, one fearless guardian, and one explosive star. They united to form the emotional center of Indiana Fever. Sophie accepted the moniker wholeheartedly. She even had a personalized tee with cartoon representations of the three of them printed on it. Bold colors, bright smiles, and everything. Fans began wearing their own replicas of the design to games as soon as it went viral. Beyond the fun, though, the shirt was more than just a sweet homage. It demonstrated that their relationship went beyond their work relationship. It was an authentic friendship. These three women supported one another, whether they were rejoicing in a major victory or dealing with heartache. Their bond extended beyond game planning and exercises. Trust, time, and shared experiences on and off the court served as its foundation. However, we must examine how Sophie and Lexy started their own travels with the Indiana Fever in order to comprehend how this potent trio came to be. How Lexy and Sophie settled in next to Caitlin Clark. The Trushes were bound together by more than simply friendship. It was the kind of inner fuel that cannot be taught, silent grit, and shared war scars. Sophie Cunningham didn't come to Indiana in search of a new beginning. She came eager to cause trouble. She had been accustomed to the habit of entering a locker room where she was already familiar with the procedures after spending 6 seasons with the Phoenix Mercury. She used to lunge for loose balls, trade elbows, and shout louder than the audience, but that passion had begun to fade. She had no desire to be at ease. She desired to experience the strain once more. That was provided by Indiana, a youthful roster, a city desperate for revitalization, and, above all, a group that isn't scared to let leaders take the lead. She therefore stormed in, sharp-tongued, boisterous, and not hesitant to adopt a new persona. That was Sophie's signature even while she was a college student. She had turned expectations into opportunities by crushing her way through 4 state titles at Rockbridge High, Missouri. She only sharpened that edge during her time at Mississippi. More than 2,000 points, 129 consecutive starts, and a reputation for treating every possession as if it were personal. Even though Sophie knew that the WNBA would never be easy, she saw hardship as motivation. She wasn't really attractive. Despite her lack of height, she was unrelenting. She soon became Indiana's emotional anchor thanks to that same bold, daring spirit, particularly as Caitlin Clark's fame started to soar. However, Lexy Hull provided quiet precision where Sophie was fire. Hull's dedication and perseverance had already etched her place into Stanford's history by the time she joined the Indiana Fever in 2022, 6th overall in the draft. Many people were surprised since they thought she would finish late in the first round. Lexy arrived without any fanfare. She entered with receipts. Her time in college was a masterclass in reliability.